Yeah.
And now, our feature presentation.
This is blatant criminal activity that we're witnessing. You have former staff members coming out of the White House writing books. Scott McClellan, the press secretary, and yet the American public just goes on as though they've heard nothing. The main feature of the new economic order are the levels of debt that young people are burdened with, along with working home buyers. And we're going from a society that was once moving toward property ownership back into a debtor society. The reason for that is this nation was built on an economic foundation of free labor. It cannot survive unless a healthy number of people work for free. It has always been that way. Now, for 30 years, this government has been cutting back from investing in the nation's most valuable asset, which is the young mind. Tuition, even for public colleges, has become so outrageous that most people can't afford it. So young students going to school now are taking out $85 billion a year in student loans. Now here is where the criminal activity is. When Sallie Mae started, it was like Fannie Mae. Fannie Mae used to be, in its inception, something to help the working people. And then it was sold. Remember what the minister said, the hijacking of the government by corporate America. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac sold to private investors. Sallie Mae sold to private investors. Now what happens is this, beloved. You borrow $20,000 to go through school, okay? Back in the day when I went to school, student loans had 2 or 3% interest on them. Now with Sallie Mae, which has been sold under the Clinton administration, President Clinton signed the bill allowing Sallie Mae to be sold to private investors. Now this company is allowed to change your interest rate after you finish school. So you have thousands of students that will borrow $20,000 or $30,000, and 6 months after they've graduated, before they even have a job, they get their first bill, and on that bill, the interest is 18%. So a loan that was $20,000 is $50,000 before you ever get a job. You are a slave, in debt, in debt. Because it is not so far-fetched, beloved, that there will come a day when those of us running up credit card debt, falling behind, are approached. What are you going to do about this debt? Oh, the bankruptcy laws were changed in 2005. Lobbying by the credit card companies is what brought that about. There was a time when a person who just was about to collapse because they couldn't pay their bills, and 90% of people that were filing bankruptcy were doing so because of medical catastrophes, not to escape their bills, but a medical catastrophe or a loss of a job. Now, the private corporate America brought an end to that in 2005. There is no relief from this debt except to come to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan. I'm going to prove that today. There's no other way. There's no other way. Islam comes when all else fails. And baby, it has failed. It has failed. There's nowhere to come but down this aisle. You cannot escape this. There's one final way that the government policy discourages poor and modest income people from attending college, and that is the application form. The application form is so complicated and lengthy that 1.5 million students who are eligible for aid can't complete the application. And what is so bizarre and self-destructive about this policy is that you keep your citizenry from pursuing an education, but in the long term, you've created a gravitational pull on your own world, because you have citizens who can't think, can't reason, and then when you have a pirate, a gang of thugs and thieves in the White House who just ignore law, you don't have a public that is conscious and capable of recognizing the dismantling of the U.S. Constitution. So of all the mean-spirited, greedy actions, America didn't read A Torchlight for America. Using young minds as a source of profit. You've got executives of these companies, EduCap and Sally Mae. They go on the campuses and have the college officials steer the students toward these loans. They lie by what they don't have in the brochure and get you to sign on with these loans, and they make so much money. They buy $30 million Gulfstream jets for their top executives. Now, we're going to leave them alone for a while, talk about ourselves. I want to deal with this Black caucus. I want to show you there's nowhere else to come but right here. There's nowhere else to come. But then those of us that are here, we have to start, we, not you, we have to start using what God gave us to bring to this table, because all of us have a talent, a skill, a gift, and in many cases multiple gifts and skills that you were born with. Because the scientists saw the minister coming thousands of years ago, and they said, well, if they saw him coming, and if Allah brought him into existence for us, then you think Allah just said, well, I'm going to have Farrakhan in the world, and then I don't care who's around him. I'll just leave that to chance. Does that make any sense? Absolutely not. There are, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, no coincidences. He said there is no such thing. Things don't just happen. They don't just coincide. Everything that occurs is the product of Allah's active will, which means He makes it happen, or it's the product of His permissive will, which means He allows it to happen. So you and I are alive in this time, from the newborns to the elderly, to help bring about a universal change. But look at Black lawmakers. One thing that's really killing us, because what I love about these teachings is they're not spooky. We are taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and those of you that are here for the first time, you're going to love these teachings because they give you a way not only for spiritual upliftment, but for good health so that you can be here physically a long time. And it's really our duty to live as long as we can and as well as we can as a demonstration of gratitude to Allah for our lives.